for storms for your weekend. We talk about when we're expecting the first line of storms to move through and if you could keep that umbrella or you'll need that umbrella for any outdoor plans this weekend. And we're taking you around the country to places cleaning up after all the severe weather has been impacting parts of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and we talk about where that threat is setting up for this evening. And we take a look at some of your photos, and we talk about also ways you can stay alert on the First Alert weather app and share your reports. So that's all coming up.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And we've got the weather extra right now, talking about more rain moving in overnight tonight. The model's really locking in on late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So if you have plans 9, 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, I think you'll be in good shape. It looks like this is going to move in early in the day. The afternoon tomorrow, some questions. Will we see some additional pop-up showers and storms later in the day? We will heat up into the 80s, so we could see some redevelopment there during the afternoon and into the evening. So that's the next big thing we're going to talk about. We'll take it into Sunday, talk about those rain chances as well. But right now, let's take you to one of the brand new Sky Vision sites at Jemison, Alabama. This is right there in Jemison at Church Street, and that's at the water tower there at Church Street from Alabama Light Wave, and we certainly love those views and those eyes in the sky. But you can see a lot of clouds out there at the moment, but some of this rain, if it does hold together, I think it could reach us here in Chilton County, perhaps around 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. The question is, how far south will those storms go? So here's what you need to know. First alert for storms, the timing midnight until 10 o'clock Saturday morning. And that 10 o'clock time frame, I'm talking Highway 80 corridor, far south by that point. So for most of us, this is going to be way out of here by 10 o'clock in the morning. But here's what we're tracking right now. All that severe weather to the north, and eventually a line of storms is going to develop. And as that moves south, notice the risk for us. It's not as elevated as what we're seeing to the north, but there still could be some damaging wind gusts, some hail producers, some locally heavy rain. Model data and the timing for this shows again after midnight. So let's take it to 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're showing Hamilton, Hackleburg. You may hear some loud rumbles. Really need to watch this as this crosses Hartselle and down towards Coleman there around Lake Gunnersville. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, some gusty winds and some intense lightning. Make sure you have ways to get those alerts just in case we have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings out there. But again, a lot of this comes through during the early morning, well past midnight. And as quickly as we go into the early morning, there's Utah to Tuscaloosa. You can see temperatures right there around 72. Around Birmingham, some heavy rain. Also Pell City and along I-20 and Anniston area there around 4 o'clock in the morning. And then after 4 o'clock, making the push down into the southern part of the area. So this is a fast mover. It's in and out of here. How well will this line hold together? Some model data shows the storms falling apart before they even reach I-20. So I just want to stress there's not a guarantee that these storms are going to actually reach down into the southern part of the area. But if they do, and we need to be ready for that, you can expect that heavy rain around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's questionable just how well that morning round is going to work over the atmosphere, because we might see some redevelopment as we heat up. The heat, the humidity, the instability or the unsettled pattern, well, that's not going anywhere. It's going to stick around. Thankfully, we will be left with a nice opportunity for outdoor activities tomorrow. So it's not a total washout. And then you can see those showers and storms come back again as we go into early Sunday morning. So we'll be talking again about those rain chances for Sunday. And it looks like now you can see clearly the model's really favoring maybe again some overnight development, which could help bring another nice break in that activity for your Sunday as well. But a lot of severe weather happening around the country, and I was showing you what was happening in states off to the north. Currently, there are tornado watches that extend across Ohio, and we'll take this over to First Alert AccuTrack again so you can see several ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings. There have been several confirmed, not just tornado warnings, but confirmed tornado warnings, and there's actually one right now. If you have any connections there around Harrisburg, and this is all to the east now of Cape Girardeau, where we did see some warnings earlier, but this looks like Saline, Illinois, a tornado warning through 7 o'clock, and that is a confirmed tornado emergency right now. You see that. That means there is a tornado producing damage, and several ground truth observations right now, a tornado producing damage. That is a tornado emergency right now for Saline, Illinois. So some volatile weather happening states north of us. Not expecting, again, I just want to stress that level of severity once this reaches us us early tomorrow morning, but we'll continue to track this. But this is some of the damage left behind. This was in St. Louis today as those storms moved through earlier, and you can see a tree on top of a home after a tornado moved through that area. Several spotters of confirming visual confirmation of a tornado in that area. And after yesterday's severe weather outbreak, residents of Mayville in Wisconsin are beginning the cleanup process today. Emily Pofall has the latest.
Colson Fiore and his family were inside their Mayville home when the storm hit Thursday.
The lights started flickering and the power cut out, so we moved into the storage room. We hear this big crash.
That crash, their neighbor's tree falling on the house, decimating the front porch. But luckily, Fiore says, not much else.
It's really like a miracle. I know it's kind of weird to say it considering it, but I think it's probably the best considering that's the worst of it and nobody's hurt.
Fiore, who's supposed to graduate high school this weekend, says recovery won't be easy.
With everybody you see, everybody's pitching in to clear the roads earlier. This road with Main Street was totally blocked off by every tree had fallen down. But I mean, you really see how everybody's come together to help fix that.
Fiore's friend saw what he says was a funnel cloud come in from across town and rushed over to help after the storm cleared.
I see a 4-ish mile wide funnel cloud start to form. Big, I can see it swirling around. And then that's when I run inside and get in the basement because I wasn't sticking out much longer. So it's pretty shocking, really. I didn't think they got hit too bad, but then I was hoping they didn't, but see it and they did kind of get hit.
Just one example of neighbors stepping up to clean up.
Well, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter show in Chicago also being delayed Thursday night due to those strong to severe storms. It started nearly 2 hours later after being impacted by torrential rain and strong winds. The show was originally set to begin at 7 p.m. Of course, a lot of impacts across that region, but no matter where you are, scan this code. If you're traveling in other states impacted by severe weather, this is the WBRC First Alert Weather app. It is free for your phone and it follows you wherever you go. I actually had someone ask me about a forecast in Europe the other day and got the alert on the First Alert Weather app, so it works around the world. So download that, the WBRC First Alert Weather app. Just scan the code on your screen and that will send you precipitation and lightning alerts. Well, we were talking about one concert happening, the Beyonce concert. There's another concert happening actually right now. Let's take you to the Gulf Coast. A live look from our First Alert Sky Vision at the Hangout, and what a crowd there along the beach. And looks like right now there was a band on stage earlier. It looks like a break happening at the moment, but the weather is going to be perfect for folks heading down for the Sand in My Boots concert event happening, and that's at Gulf Shores for this weekend. But just to show you that forecast, I know we're talking about storms here in the morning. I don't expect that to reach the Gulf Coast if you are heading down for this weekend. Sunday, 82 degrees, winds out of the southwest, and here's that 7-day forecast. Of course, we've got Memorial Day weekend coming up next weekend, and a 7-day beach forecast. You can see next week, the next chance of rain we're showing there Wednesday. Chance for some rain and storms. There's a cold front around the middle of next week, and as we go into Memorial Day weekend, it is going to be windy with temperatures taking a tumble, highs in the upper 70s, and it looks like some 60s out there. And since we're talking about Memorial Day weekend, I want to give you a First Alert Weather Extra exclusive here. How about a first look at the Memorial Day weekend forecast? And for us right now, Saturday, Sunday, and Memorial Day looks dry, highs in the 80s. Let's keep it that way, right? Of course, a lot can change, but we will be closely monitoring that forecast. And in 30 seconds, we continue to talk about those rain chances for your Saturday and how you can prepare your AC as we get ready for some hot weather in the summer months. We'll see you after the break. Well, another new Sky Vision site to share with you from Woodstock, Alabama. And you see we got some clouds here in Bibb County moving through the area. No rain at the moment, but we will be talking about those rain chances coming back later on tonight. Let's go over to our rain chance forecast for tomorrow. And I'm seeing the greatest coverage in the morning, and then that coverage backs off during the afternoon and the evening. But we'll see tomorrow night a chance now, based on new data, that there will be a chance for some wet weather to return late tomorrow night. But the way this is timing out, we might actually end up with some of our greatest coverages of rain during the overnight hours and early morning hours. But it looks like maybe Sunday morning again, some heavier rain could move through. That may limit at least development in the early afternoon. I still think we need to watch it with those temperatures back in the 80s. Scattered storms, some locally heavy rain in a few areas. Not a total washout, but when those storms do pop up, certainly could be impactful. So we'll be closely monitoring. Of course, don't forget Matt's here tomorrow morning. Lots of radar updates. We'll be tracking it for you throughout the night right here. And as many of us prepare to head for some time outdoors, right, for summer vacation, Mandy Gaither has some tips to keep your skin healthy in today's Health Minute.
The weather is warmer and the outdoors may be calling, but as you spend more time under the sun, experts say protecting your skin from its rays is critical, and the first line of defense is sunscreen.
It's really not a matter of the SPF. 30 is fine. It's a matter of applying sunblock correctly.
Dr. Shane Dormady with El Camino Health says many people don't do that. His second tip, proper sunscreen application. Apply it to the skin 15 minutes before going outdoors so it has time to sink in. And reapply sunscreen every 2 hours or more often when you do things like get into the water, sweat, or wipe off with a towel. Third, he says seek shade and avoid too much sun exposure, especially between the hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. when ultraviolet rays are most powerful. Fourth, cover skin with clothing when you can.
Sunglasses have ultraviolet protection, and wearing a hat is helpful, especially a wide-brimmed hat.
Finally, be aware of the sun's reflection, especially if you're heading to the beach.
When you are near the water or on the sand, water and sand can actually magnify and somewhat reflect the rays of the sun, making it easier to get a sunburn.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And as we continue preparing for the heat, keeping cool could cost more this summer. A new study finding that Americans could be paying a record $784 on average to cool their homes from June through September. That's up to 4% higher than last year and 14% higher than 2020. Well, we're going to be talking about some wet weather coming up here. Latest outlook. This is the precipitation outlook from the Weather Prediction Center, and just some estimates here. You can clearly see it's not the level of rain we saw last weekend. I just want to point that out. But there's some spots in here where we have these storms that set up. Just on average, we could see at least an inch of rain. I know we've had some data suggesting maybe up to an inch and a half of rain in some areas, but I would be expecting this is actually 1 to 3 days. So today through Sunday, I do expect some of us to end up with over an inch of rain because of scattered thunderstorms. But look at just some estimates there, saying 1-3 inches at max if we do end up with some heavier storms by Sunday afternoon. But that's what we're seeing for the weekend. But we're not the only ones being impacted, of course, not just by storms, by the rain. A city in California is requesting a disaster declaration this week after extreme weather severely impacted this year's cherry crop. Fox's Kimberly Cruz spoke to a local farmer and brings us the latest on what this means for the country and for consumers.
If I bite into this.
Jason Chinchillo is the owner of Lodi Blooms, a roughly 40-acre orchard that grows 5 different kinds of cherries.
What kind of cherries are these?
These are coral champagnes.
A summer treat that could be hard to come by this year.
It's not looking great, I can tell you that.
Chinchillo says several weather factors impacted the crop growth.
Right in here, there's just a bunch that's blank, right? That's not normal.
He says it traces back to last summer, where there were multiple days of triple-digit temperatures.
The other is there was quite a bit of rain and more so the wind in the springtime during bloom, and there's the thought that the viability of the pollen was much less because of the drying effect that the wind can have on pollen.
In a statement to Fox 40, San Joaquin County Agricultural Commissioner said, quote, based on cherry grower and packer surveys, the county experienced a 43.41% reduction in yield compared to the 5-year average, with an overall crop loss to be 1.39 tons per acre, resulting in an estimated economic loss of over $101 million. Chinchillo adds his orchard alone is seeing about 50% less crop.
Chinchillo says that the effects could trickle down to the consumer, meaning that when you go to the grocery store, you may expect to pay more for cherries, or you may just not find them at all.
There's not as much revenue potentially coming in, so there's an immediate need to think about from a business standpoint of how to adjust operations. I think the main adjustment that we've made is we've increased our direct-to-consumer pricing.
Dependent on Mother Nature's force, Chinchillo is already thinking about what improvements he can make for next year's harvest.
I'm looking at ways to leverage a lot more nutrition in terms of making sure these trees are as resilient as possible.
In Lodi, covering local news that matters, Kimberly Cruz, Fox 40 News.
Anywhere we talk about a big change in temperatures for your week and next week, or your weekend and next week, and we take you beyond the atmosphere to a sunny side of 2 stars. We'll be right back with more First Alert Weather Extra. All right, time for the Weather Extra on when to expect rain tonight. We're in good shape for at least the next few hours. It's going to be late tonight before storms reach us, but this is a look at 9 o'clock, and then we're still dry. There's 11 o'clock, but here it comes after midnight, and right there, that midnight to 2 a.m. window, we'll be tracking a line of storms pushing in from the north, and some of those could be quite intense, and you can feel out there right now. It's warm, it's humid, there's some instability in the atmosphere, and as these storms move south, some of these still pack a punch with some gusty winds, maybe some hail producers, so just can't rule that out. There is a low-end severe weather risk for tonight. A lot of data telling us these storms may start to weaken some as they move further south, but a lot of times in May, once these storms get going, a lot of times they just push on through. I've just seen that happen too many times. No matter what the models say, we need to be weather alert. There's a look at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, and then by 8 o'clock in the morning, those storms pushing into the southern part of the area. But hopefully, nothing severe, but this will move out fairly quickly early in the day. That's a good thing. So that's going to leave us with plenty of opportunity for outdoor activities tomorrow and those Saturday plans. Notice 11 o'clock in the morning, just some clouds, temperatures in the 70s. Not too bad, but we warm up. We get a little bit of sun coming back in the afternoon. As we heat up, the atmosphere sort of gets primed in again for more storm development, but could that hold off until late tomorrow night? Well, at least that's what we're starting to see in some of the data. We've got this boundary that's stalled out over the area, so eventually another wave of storms will come around this weekend, but now we're seeing trends. This could happen tomorrow night and early Sunday morning. Still need to watch the afternoon Sunday, but you can see right there, 10 p.m. tomorrow night, possibility of some redevelopment and maybe overnight and early on Sunday. Again, some stronger storms possible. Eventually by Monday, the rain chances start to lift north again. So we're going to have dry weather Monday. Highs, though, still in the upper 80s. A hot day coming up on Monday, but dry weather conditions. But as we go to Tuesday now, we're starting to see that next cold front, and this is going to be a potent cold front as it moves through. Not a lot of rain with this. It looks like maybe a broken line of scattered storms push in here. The timing has shifted a little bit sooner. It could get in here as early as Tuesday afternoon, but it looks like Wednesday morning this will be moving out of the area. And then we have a drop in temperatures. And check this out towards the end of next week. Models indicating we still could see some 40s out there. So that drop in temperatures coming up in the long range forecast going into Memorial Day weekend. Now, it won't last long. As we know, we warm up quickly. In fact, even though we'll have some chillier mornings coming up late next week, afternoon highs back in the mid 80s by Memorial Day. But watching Tuesday and Wednesday and next week, again, that chance for wet weather. And of course, that system moving in overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning. But right now, we're going to take you beyond the atmosphere, and it's a planetary path we have never seen before. Dan Smith shows us why this orbit around a pair of stars is so tough to find in your moment of science.
In the vastness of the universe, there are millions of mysteries to be found millions of light years away. The one recent discovery is a lot closer to home, a planet orbiting a pair of stars 120 light years away.
We don't know of all that many. We know of around 16 that are confirmed, but we actually think they're quite common.
Common, but difficult to detect. Thomas Baycroft at the University of Birmingham led this study and says most current methods for detecting planets revolve around shorter orbits, and this one certainly doesn't fit the bill. But the orbital plane is the weird part here.
All of the ones that we do know are very close to being in the same orbital plane as the binary. So in this case, what we found is some evidence for a planet that's at a much higher inclination, probably quite close to 90 degrees.
There's been some evidence of a near perpendicular orbit like this, though much of it's simply been gas and dust around binary stars and not an entire formed planet. A Chilean observatory helped find this system back in 2018, with more observations taken on the Very Large Telescope. But as some discoveries go, the team wasn't even looking for this stellar pair.
This was one of the targets that was being observed, and they spotted a dip in the light when one of the two brown dwarfs passed in front of the other one. The orbit of these brown dwarfs are elliptical. They're on an eccentric orbit, is what it's called. We found evidence that it's changing its orientation in time.
It's only the second time a brown dwarf eclipse like this has been noted, so they wanted more data to find how, why, and when it would happen again. Moving orbital planes isn't unheard of. In fact, Mercury's odd precession around the sun was one of the first test cases for Einstein's theory of general relativity. Knocking down each possibility about these brown dwarfs,
the only remaining conclusion is that there has to be a perturbing third body on a highly inclined orbit.
It may not be the twin suns of Tatooine, but don't let the small inference fool you about these stars. The hitchhiking planet's sizable on its own.
Its mass could range anywhere from about 4 or 5 times the mass of Earth to 10 to 20 times the mass of Jupiter. So you could have a small planet nearby that causes the same effect as a large planet far away.
On a final note, Baycroft's working on his PhD, all about finding planets around binary stars. I'd say he's a pretty strong candidate. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
And check this out, a history-making moment for the Mars rover. It detected the first visible image of a green aurora on Mars. The discovery happened last March near the peak of the current solar cycle. NASA says the sun produced solar flare activity along with a massive explosion of gas and energy, which led to auroras across the solar system, which of course we know all too well what we saw around here last spring. It was quite impressive. We'll be right back with your final check on weather and a look at some of your weather photos you shared on the First Alert Weather app. We'll show you that right after the break. Stay with us. Time for your weather photos. Send in on the First Alert Weather app, and if you ever have a picture, it's just one click away. Send those in. That was Travis Braden, lovely sunset view. Stephen Owen sharing this at Nakalula Falls, and Bob Phillips sharing this view. This was last night at Limestone Park, and just a lovely glow there to the sky. Just some fabulous art, right? And Kaylee Dossett sharing this full moon over Lake Mitchell. Beautiful view there. And Jarvis Rawls, lovely view as always from Gadsden. He shares a lot of photos there along the banks of the Coosa River, but some clouds overhead. Ryan Carty still on the storm spotting mission out west, Supercell near Stapleton, Nebraska. And Norma Bryan sharing views over Lincoln, Tennessee. Lovely views as always. Look at the healthy crops there already this time of the year. But as we look at the 10-day forecast for us, we'll have those rain chances in the morning. Again, a first alert overnight tonight. Storms return. A line that's going to move south through the early morning hours, and then we'll catch some breaks into Saturday afternoon. And then tomorrow night, late tomorrow night into Sunday, those rain chances come back. Temperatures in the 80s. Tuesday into Wednesday, storms, and then some cooler weather towards the end of next week. We'll have highs back in the 70s, maybe even some mid to upper 40s in some areas for overnight lows. But we'll be talking more about the Memorial Day weekend forecast. Matt's here in the morning. I'm here throughout the weekend also tracking the weather. We got football coming up, and after the sports tonight on Fox, we'll see you back here for the 10 o'clock news.